Hello, so in this video, this is going to be lesson 2. We're going to show you how to make a canoe as an asset in Maya, and again, bring it into Unreal and animate it. So we're going to go ahead and start inside our same scene. We don't have to use the same scenes since we're going to be exporting, but again, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just use the same scene. So I'm going to go ahead and make a cube. I'm going to press R to scale it, and I'm going to stretch it out. So I want to make this a canoe that I'm going to have animate going down my little pond here. Again, scale matters too. So depending on how big I want my boat to be versus how big the islands are, I'm going to go ahead and make this smaller. But we're going to go ahead and go to face mode. And we're going to go ahead and do what's called extruding. So if you've never extruded before, you hold shift and you can pull inward when you're scaling inward. So it adds more geometry around your face. And then you can press W, hold shift, and push down. So one more time, I'm going to press R for scale, hold shift, extrude inward, press W, hold shift, push downward. If you get that technique down, you can make a lot of different objects inside of Maya. So now I have, it looks like a box. So if I press 3, this is what it looks like smooth. So I got a nice little smooth items. Now that I'd press 3 and this is what it looks like preview wise, but it has not locked in yet. So to lock in this shape, I'm gonna go back to object mode. So right click and hold. I'm gonna come to mesh. I'm gonna go to smooth. And I always like to do 2 or 3 just to lock in that smoothness. Now it's pretty dense, so maybe 2 would do just fine, but I'm gonna go ahead and leave it at that. So now I have a canoe. Let's go ahead and color it. Right click and hold, assign new material, new material. I'm gonna go ahead again and make it Maya textures because that transfers over into Unreal. I'm gonna go Lambert. I'm gonna name this brown. I'm gonna go ahead and click on the color. I'm gonna go ahead and start with the yellow, move my color wheel to the orange. And what I always like to have fun with the kids with like color theories, I'm like, hey, to make brown, you actually have to make orange, and then you change the shading and the tinting for your brown. So I kind of want, it's kind of what I want. Maybe I'll adjust it a little bit more. There we go. So that looks good to me. So I want to use this again in Unreal. You can animate this in Maya as well, but Unreal being a game engine that can render at a fast speed and be able to give it, that Pixar quality, looks really good. In this case, again, I could use Arnold rendering, make the sun, and render this out. And this looks great. But you do have to animate you have to export every single frame to animate this into either a collection like After Effects or Premiere. This one in Unreal does that all for you. So I'm going to go ahead and just export this object, animate it in Unreal. It's going to be a little bit easier for this being an object animation. Character animation, you can animate in Maya and export that separately. We will do a lesson on that as well. So in this case, again, I want to export this canoe. So again, I'm going to do the same techniques. So I'm going to go over here to File. I'm going to go to Export Selection. Again, I'm going to name this boat. Again, I'm going to make sure it's under my project folder. And I'm going to make sure it's FBX, export selection. So now, again, if I go back into my Unreal, I can go to content drawer. Again, I can go to my level prototyping, meshes. I can right click in here, import into game level prototyping meshes. Again, I know to go back under me, go find my boat, import all. It's going to pop up some errors because there's always some errors, but now I have my boat. It has my texture in here and it has my boat. Again, it scaled it from what I had it in Maya, so it's a little tiny probably, so let's bring it in. Remember, I scaled, if you watched my last video, I did scale my island to be bigger inside the game. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. So again, if I press R, or you can use these tools too, I can scale my boat. And now I have my boat. Now, again, this tutorial is also to animate. So I'm going to go and press F. So if I want to animate this canoe or boat going through this pond, I have to do a few things. So I got my object in here. I want to animate it. So let's go ahead and do that. So what we need to do to animate, if you middle mouse wheel drag, you can move your access point too. So if you middle mouse wheel click on your access point, you can drag and reselect it. So in this case, because it came in at a weird angle, I want to do that. So now let's say I want to animate this boat. First, I want to make sure it's in the water. Okay, so I want to animate this boat. No, actually, I just duplicated it. So to make this boat, let me move this again. To animate this boat going through the channels, I need to add what's called a sequencer. So I like to keep my files pretty managed. So if I go back to content, what I'm going to do in here is I'm actually going to make a new folder. So if you right click and hold, and it'll make right click and or just right click and let go, it will make a option box. You go to new folder. This is where I'll name this animation. So I know it's my animation folder. I'm going to double click in there. So if you right click up at the top, you can start trying to find things. They have moved it under sequence. I mean cinematic. So cinematic is where they move sequences. You need a level sequence to animate. So again, if I start typing in cinematics, it'll pop up. I'll click on level sequence. I'm going to name this boat so I know it's my boat animation. Now, a couple things. One, if you want to animate inside the game, so if I press play and I want my character to see this boat moving, I do have to do a couple things. First things first, I need to bring my animation sequence into the game. If I don't do this, you can still animate, but it won't play in the game. So if you want it to play in the game, you have to do that. Otherwise, if you're just doing this for animation rendering, you don't have to do that. But I'm going to go ahead and bring it into the game. So that's step one. Step two, I need to click on it and open it. Now, majority of the time when you open up your sequencer, it's actually going to open up behind your content drawer. So if that ever happens to you, just know if you click on it, it's probably behind it. So you just need to move this down and then pop it open. So, and you can always drag this out like you saw me moving on another screen if you want. So to actually animate something, you have to bring it in here. So otherwise it's not going to animate. So just like Maya, in Unreal, there is an outliner. So if you have your outliner open, you can see the different objects you have. So obviously I can just click on the boat, but I could click on it here too. But no, long story short, you have to drag this in to your sequencer. Anything you want to animate, you have to put in here. So if you drag your object in here, then you can animate it. So now let's see here. So I want to animate this. I'm on frame 0. So I'm going to go ahead and press S. It's the same as Maya, so you can press S to lock in keyframes. So I'm going to go ahead and press S. And you guys can see it locked in a keyframe. So it's right there. So let's say I want to move it, let's say 15. Let's go 15 frames. Say it's right there. Press S. Again, I can go all the way to frame 90, press S. Now let's say you want it to be like Mario or something that comes back so that your character can jump in the boat or out of the boat. I could go down here and move your animation back, press S. I mean, again, depending on what you're doing. If you're animating a cartoon, you probably don't want to have it loop, but I'm going to have this in a game I want to loop. So I have my animation done. I can drag this and watch my animation, or I can press space bar and watch my animation. Now, to make it loop inside the game, I click on this outliner, you guys. I click on the sequencer that's in the game. You come here where it says autoplay, you click that on, and you click loop indefinitely. So if you do that in your game, if I press play, now you can see that boat's going to continuously animate. And it does have collisions built into it. So obviously I could scale this better so I could actually ride the boat in my game. You can see it's moving me. So that's if you want to have the animation in the game. If you want to render your animation for a cartoon, there's a couple more steps you need to do. So the next step is to animate your game. Your animation is with your sequencer. You want to put a camera in here. So you can see right here, create a new camera. If you click that button, it will make a new camera for you, and now you're looking through it. So it creates your camera so you can see like the animation right here. This is the actual camera right here. So this is where you click on and on to see through your camera. So you can animate your camera as well. I'm not going to animate the camera in this scene. I just want to turn it on, and I just want to move in where I want it to render out my animation. And again, this would, if I had more story going on in my scene with characters jumping in or something, that I could do that. So I put the camera in there. It can export it again. It will only export what I see. So again, I can animate my camera if I want to. Um, in this case, I'm just going to zoom out and have the boat go off scene. Or actually, it'll jump back and on because I got there. So to render this out for your animation, render your animation, you just click on these three little dots, this render box, and you turn on movie scene capture. After you've done it, you click this box and it will pop open. Now, this is where you can change frame rate. You guys can change compression. The biggest thing is make sure you know where it's going to save. So you want to make sure you know where it's going to save. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and go to my user storage. I'm going to go to my folder, and I'm actually going to use my Maya folder movies just so I know where it's at. I'm going to name this boat movie so I know it's my boat movie. I'm going to go ahead and press select folder. Whoops. Oh, it's because it doesn't exist yet. My bad. So just click on younger, just click on movies and press select folder. This is where you can rename it. So I'm going to name it boat. So now I can press capture movie. It's going to save everything you've done. So I'm going to press save selected all. And it's going to pop up a screen where it's showing your animation rendering. And you can even click here, open captured video. And this is where you can pull up your animation that you just created. So here's my boat animation. And there it is. So you guys can see how fast that renders versus Maya, collecting it in After Effects or Premiere. So I hope that helps. Again, this lesson was to show you guys how to animate in a game and also animate for just animation using Maya. I hope that helped. Next video, I'm going to show you how to bring in real live action or stop motion animation. Get an easy A. I hope it helped you get an A for the day in animation.